175 FH. Sorry for sentencing. Defendant and her attorney, Mr. McDonough, are present in person.
Morning, Your Honor.
I provided them with a notice of copy, but it's right to the
All right, Mr. McDonough, you had an adequate opportunity to review the pre-sentence report and the sentencing information with your client.
I have, Your Honor. I've had an opportunity to review it with Ms. Van Harn. I have no additions, corrections, or deletions.
All right, and then with accurate information on which to base sentencing, I'll go to Mr. Butler. Anything on behalf of the people?
Well, first, a slight correction under the description of offense narrative. Page 4, just the first sentence there. There's just a typo with the date. Should be 8/31/21.
On this, which page?
Page 2 of the CFJ 284. The first sentence is the description of offense narrative. Oh, yes.
You have that, Ms. Vaughn.
Yeah, what is it?
It just says 8/31/30. Obviously.
I'll take care of that, yes.
So, okay, it should be 8/31/21. Other than that, I didn't see any corrections that were needed. Just, people know, obviously, this is we have a situation where, very similar to the last defendant, no prior felonies, no prior misdemeanors, being a productive member of society, and then gets, for one reason or another, gets involved in the situation, which is bringing in contraband to prison, which obviously puts not only other inmates in jeopardy, it puts the defendant herself in jeopardy, it puts any other correction officers in jeopardy, and anyone on the outside who may be a victim when we have cell phones being smuggled in. The prisoner being able to contact people on the outside, like being monitored, which is a security concern. The agreement in this case was capped in the middle of the guidelines, range 0 to 9. Recommendation for the OC is 30 days. I would ask that you rather impose at least that, if not a consideration more. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. McDonough, anything on behalf of your client?
Yes, Your Honor. And I know the court's had an opportunity to review all the materials submitted. It should be noted that Ms. Van Harn was cooperative and forthcoming in her interview. She has taken full responsibility, although it was a no contest plea for obvious reasons. I would ask the court to consider the medical issues that Ms. Van Harn has, and I know that's detailed somewhat in the PSI, but not in very great detail. She is on some very unique and expensive medications that if she were not able to get at the jail would seriously impact her health. And I'm not trying to argue that she should not get jail time, Your Honor, but I would ask that the court consider suspending it, perhaps even consider some significant community service or increased fines, but at least a suspended sentence due to some of these medical issues. And I can let Ms. Van Harn discuss that further. Should be noted also that her licensing for mental health as a mental health provider was in jeopardy at one point. She did participate in a required health professional recovery program. It was found that she did not need any further monitoring. So I mean that's a positive thing. She can continue the type of work that she's doing. I have 2 letters, character references I'd like to submit to the court. One is from her current director of counseling, who's in the courtroom today, Van Harn's employer, and then also from the Granville Public Schools, if I may approach.
Sure. Has Mr. Butler seen this?
No.
Mr. Butler, would you like to look at this before?
Sorry. All right, I've had a chance to skim these over. They frankly don't surprise me based on her work history. But then we're also left with the fact that she's still doing what she did, which compromised the integrity and security of the pregnancy.
All right, so just give the court a moment. Then. All right, Mr. McDonough, go ahead.
Lastly, Your Honor, I mean, I know the court is accustomed to people standing before the court and making excuses, and I hate to do that. But Ms. Van Harn, yes, she had choices along the way, all along the way. She always had choices. But she clearly also was played by a very savvy inmate who was spending life in prison for committing murders. She could have taken a different turn, but I mean, as the PSI points out, her own statement all along the way has been that she's felt threatened, that her special needs child was threatened. All those types of things, I think, kind of led to some of the reasons why she felt, I guess, at the time that she didn't have another way out. When the reality is she did have another way out. She just chose not to exercise that way. But that being said, that's all I have to say, Your Honor. I would ask that the court exercises discretion.
All right, Ms. Van Horn, is there anything that you would like to say before the court imposes sentence?
Yes, I'd like to thank you for listening. I know that you get lots of people standing in front of you. I would like to take full responsibility for everything that's happened. But I do want you to know that nothing like this will ever happen again. The medical concerns that Mr. McDonough is talking about are loosely defined in the PSI. I have what's called steroid-induced diabetes. I'm on a medication that's brand new to the market due to not tolerating insulin. Due to the fact that I don't tolerate insulin, my blood sugar has ruined my eyes. And without this medication, it will greatly impact my health. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a very rare disease that basically impacts my heart and my joints. I have Hashimoto's disease, which is an autoimmune disease. Without the medication daily, it results in hospitalization due to extremely low blood pressure. And the one that is scary to me is narcolepsy. Without my medications, which is a controlled substance and not available in prison and in jail, I can't stay awake, which impacts my safety, which is scary to me because the people taking care of me in jail are the people that I reported. So I'm concerned about my safety without these medications. And lastly, my daughter, who is here with me today, requires supervision for safety, for cooking. She's on the autism spectrum. Her only grandparent lives in Arizona, so not able to come in because his wife had a heart attack last week. So what I'm asking for is leniency and some sort of creativity. I'm willing to take any kind of punishment you give, hoping that it does not involve me being away from my daughter so that I can continue to care for her. I don't really have anything else to say. I'm really sorry. And I hope to never see you again.
All right, well, Ms. Van Horn, I don't have any doubt that I'm probably not going to see you again. There is no question when I review this PSI that you'll most likely comply with all the terms of supervision and most likely successfully complete your supervision. But you're not going to find any sympathy from this court. Ms. Van Horn, when I review this PSI, and I see that an inmate with the Department of Corrections has in his possession iPhone, charging cords, vaping pen, reddish colored plastic vaping pen, one black colored plastic vaping pen, 2 charging adapters, THC gummies, 13 packs of Suboxone, still factory seal, 4 super glue tubes, a needle, and a Durex condom. Then, when I see all of the messaging, the texting that went back and forth between you and this inmate, and all that is suggested in those messages that went on between you and the inmate, I'm appalled. My concern is for the safety of corrections officers that work there. My concern is for the safety of the institution. And frankly, the safety of those that are housed in the institution. What you did absolutely threatens everybody that is there within those walls, their safety. And what you did was carry on a relationship, even sounds, if we're going to go by the messages, a sexual relationship with this inmate. You can raise your eyebrows at me. I'm reading, it's in this report that was provided via text messages, bringing him food, steaks. And I don't buy for a second, not 1 second, all this nonsense that you did this because you were threatened. Because if you follow the trail through the text messages, that doesn't become something out of your mouth until the inmate is on to you that you might be turning him in. And then there's no doubt he threatened you. And let's carry that one step forward. Somebody in your position might to expect that inmates, much like the scorpion that rides the fox across the river and says, please take me across. And then the scorpion does what a scorpion does. That's what inmates do. That's mostly why a lot of them are there. And so the other thing that really just, I think is a fact about this situation that is just abhorrent is if anybody should have known this, it is you. You got training from the Department of Corrections, in addition to all of your training school to become a licensed therapist, somebody with a master's degree. You had training on how to recognize this, how to protect yourself from it, and how to make sure that you, in that position of authority, are keeping all these other people safe. And you ignored it to carry on this relationship with an inmate and did things in providing and you and him together that I don't recall the last time I've seen that in this courtroom. And I've been doing this a long time, more than 20 years as a prosecutor or a judge. And we certainly see cases like this, but I don't know that I've seen one where a relationship between an employee of the Department of Corrections and the inmate has gone on for so long and at such a level, romantically, providing him just about everything you can think of. So again, you're not going to get any sympathy from this court because my concern is not with you. It's with the folks that work there, the folks that are housed there, and everybody else that has to be associated with those institutions. I don't buy the threats. I've already mentioned that. I think that is sort of Johnny come lately. Now I'm caught. Well, I'm caught because he was threatened. That's nonsense. I also don't find and have zero sympathy on the medical issues, man. When I hear people suggest things like that, treat me differently because I have these issues, I didn't see that those issues prevented you from bringing this inmate cell phones. I didn't see that those issues prevented you from showing up to work inside the institution every day and then engaging whatever you were engaging in with him there, or texting with him, or calling with him, or providing him vape pens or drugs, getting out into the community. None of that stuff seemed to be a hindrance for you because of your medical conditions. So I'm not going to consider those in when I fashion what I think is an appropriate sentence. I also, and I'm going to ask Ms. Bond about this in a minute, I cannot believe when we have the sort of gross misjudgment by a professional healthcare provider, not just a one-time decision of gross misjudgment, but an ongoing, this is like I could liken it a bit to a financial crime. And I always recall Judge Ford, who was a judge that was here just before me, used to talk about that a little bit, and that sometimes those were some of the worst types of crimes from a perspective that continues, it requires, I should say this, Mr. Butler mentioned earlier, another case where we have two productive members of society comparing you to the other person. He's right. She was gainfully employed, you've been gainfully employed, you've been doing what we expect as citizens, but the difference is, here's the difference. The lady that I just sentenced made a decision one day, one time, that ended up causing a crime. You, much like a financial crime, got up every single day and made decisions that were gross misjudgments of any professional decisions you should have been making, and even personal decisions that you should have been making. And every day you made those decisions while you were home texting with this inmate or calling him, as you were taking cell phones and chargers and vape pens and marijuana. Every day for some time, you were making these horrible, horrible misjudgments. And it's hard to even characterize them as misjudgments. Those are purposeful decisions that you made each and every day. I'm going to use some language from a stalking statute, because I think it's appropriate, the language. It was a continuity of purpose. It was to carry on this relationship with this inmate. That's what you were doing. And when I circle back, when I think about this, I am appalled that you still have a license. Why are we letting somebody who's made such gross misjudgments for such a long period of time counsel anybody? I don't care what these letters say. In fact, one could argue that after going through this, we would expect you to be on your best behavior. We would expect you then to realize, oh, geez, maybe in this case, in this employment, I should be professional. I should make good decisions. So we know you have the capability of doing that, even after getting caught. But making those gross misjudgments for so long, carrying on this relationship with an inmate, I don't know how you have a license. I really don't. And I'm going to do something else here today. When we have financial crimes, we don't let people go back and work in the community handling money. And I sure as heck am not going to allow you to be counseling anybody while you're on supervision with this court. You are not going to be engaged in the field of therapy in any way, shape, or form. Ms. Van Horn, it will be the sentence of the court. I'm going to place you on a period of supervision for 3 years. You're not to violate any criminal law of any unit of government. You're not to leave the state without consent of the court. Only because I'm not certain in reviewing this PSI whether your interest in the inmate and providing him with drugs and all kinds of other stuff was a result of just your romantic interest with him or whatever else it may have been. But I'm also going to require that while you're being supervised, let's test her for drugs and alcohol just to make sure that's not an issue. While you're being supervised, your supervision fees will be $30 per month. While you're being supervised, the court's going to require that you maintain employment of 30 hours per week or a combination of the employment and your probation obligations. However, I am making, based on what I've just referenced here, a number 30, condition of employment. You are not to be engaged in the mental health field. while you're being supervised. Ms. Van Horn, there's going to be, because it's required by statute, a $130 crime victim rights fee. There'll be a $68 state cost. That's also required by statute. There'll be a $60 DNA testing fee. There'll be court costs, the amount of $550. And then as it relates to item number 20, ma'am, I hope that this serves as a deterrent to other folks like you that may be thinking about doing something that threatens the security of a penal institution. I hope that it also impacts you and that you realize what happened here and how you truly did put so many people in danger as a result. I'm gonna abide by the Killebrew agreement, though I thought long and hard about not doing this, man. I think that the 0 to 9, I think the facts of this case certainly cried out. I think the court, what I was really considering is a departure upward. I was thinking about a Department of Correction sentence of 1 year. And I'm not gonna go down that route, but there's many ways that when I think about this, that I don't think that the sentence I'm giving you is adequate, not based on this fact pattern. But I hope that it does resonate with others who might be thinking about the same thing. What court's gonna impose jail sentence of 135 days. You do not have credit for any days that you have previously served. Ms. Van Horn, you do have a right to seek appellate review of the sentence the court's just imposed. If you'd like to do that, you have 21 days from today's date to make that request. And if you want a court-appointed attorney to assist you, you have a broader window of 42. So 21 and 42, counsel, do you have that appellate paperwork, sir?
Yes, sir.
You approach with that. So I'm going to place this in the file. Anything else from either side?
No, thank you.
All right, that'll conclude the matter. Ms. Van Horn, you can just have a seat in the front row over there and just wait till the deputy comes.
Thank you.